what I can say unequivocally is that if you are a U.S. person, the NSA cannot listen to your telephone calls, and the NSA cannot target your emails.
And have not.
And have not. They cannot and have not, by law and by rule, and unless they, and usually it wouldn't be they, it would be the FBI, go to a court and obtain a warrant and seek probable cause. The same way it's always been.
But has FISA courts turned down any request?
Because, first of all, Charlie, the number of requests are surprisingly small, number one. Number two, folks don't go with a query unless they've got a pretty good suspicion.
So they can't, but they can, but they don't because the rules are in place. It gets a little confusing. President Obama trying to assure Americans that secret NSA surveillance programs are being used to track terrorists, not Americans. The president weighing in on the secret program during an interview with Charlie Rose on PBS. Meanwhile, the director of the NSA took to Capitol Hill today to defend the surveillance program.
Today, the NSA director told Congress that secret U.S. spying programs have thwarted at least 50 potential terror plots since 9/11.
These programs, together with other intelligence, have protected the U.S. and our allies from terrorist threats across the globe.
Testifying before the House Intelligence Committee, security officials declassified some records in order to defend the information-gathering programs. The deputy director of the FBI provided the committee with examples of what he said were plots that had been stopped.
NSA, utilizing 702 authority, was monitoring a known extremist in Yemen. This individual was in contact with an individual in the United States named Khalid Ouazani. Ouazani and other individuals that we identified through a FISA that the FBI applied for through the FISC were able to detect a nascent plotting to bomb the New York Stock Exchange.
Meanwhile, the man behind the leaks, Edward Snowden, is revealing more secrets. The former NSA contract worker has given the Guardian newspaper documents showing how the British government spied on diplomatic targets from all nations and their smartphones at a meeting of world leaders in 2009. He also claims that the U.S. listened in on calls by Russia's president. The world now reacting to Snowden's leaks. Beijing is now calling on the U.S. to explain the disclosure that the U.S. had been cyber hacking Asian nations, including China. A revelation that may put Snowden in an even tougher position.
He's the equivalent of a Chinese spy if he gives China details of U.S. intelligence operations that were run against Chinese networks.
And Snowden is promising to reveal more secrets. In an online chat through the Guardian newspaper, he wrote, quote, "The U.S. government is not going to be able to cover this up by jailing or murdering me."
To give you an idea of just how widespread these kinds of things are, Yahoo announced today that U.S. law enforcement agencies made between 12 and 13,000 requests for data in just the past 6 months. We're talking Yahoo. It's not the #1 search engine. I don't even think it's #2. In a statement, however, Yahoo said that most requests concerned fraud, homicides, kidnappings, and other criminal investigations. Some requests, it said, though it didn't specify how many, were made under the U.S. Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. So a lot to get into here. First up, what the president said to Charlie Rose, and I said, he said they can snoop, but they don't snoop because the law prevents them from snooping.
But that's nothing new. The United States government, state governments, DAs have been listening to people's phone calls and intercepting their electronic messages for decades, as long as they have a warrant. The Constitution does not say the government may not listen in. It says in order to listen in, under the Fourth Amendment, you have to get a warrant. All the president said there was, we're getting warrants. You may decide that that's not good enough, amend the Constitution.
Well, do you believe, does everybody think that nobody's done this at NSA without a warrant, without going through? I mean, you get people at the Social Security Department who are looking up Social Security information of the president and other people. It happens, they get penalized and prosecuted, but does anybody not think it hasn't happened at all?
Of course it happens, but it's not systematic, and what the best the president can do is set the policy and try to make it work. I'm not a big fan of this thing, but it's important to describe it accurately and understand what it is, and then decide whether it's good or bad, not describe it as spying and snooping and warrantless searches when there's no evidence that it is.
The questions sort of become what the capabilities are, who has access to them, and without a warrant, what can they do? not what they're legally allowed to do, but what they can do, and how easy it is for someone to hit a couple clicks of the mouse to achieve it without the warrant. I mean, as you know, it could have happened by accident, it could happen by somebody just snooping around. I lost you at Snoop with all the Snoop here, Snoop there stuff, but
of course they have the capability to break the law and listen in, like Richard Nixon did and other presidents have done. The question here is, are they doing that? And do we take their word for it? Look, the real problem with this thing is they've been lying about the program. Not what the program does, but they've been denying such a program exists. Now that they're finally going, oops, it does exist, there's no real incentive for folks to believe them now when they lied before.
Yeah, the credibility gap here is amazing. That's, I think, one of the things. I'm just surprised that, given what's been going on now, they have these public hearings, which is great. The public has to be aware of it. Has there been any significant briefing to the members of the House and the Senate, members only, at a high security level at this point, much like they have caucus meetings with no staff or anything, and say, here's what's going on, and give them a couple chances to go hear things? You can't just schedule it Tuesday at 3 o'clock in case there's conflicts, but let's make sure all the members are fully aware of what's going on here, and then decide what can be made public if not a security clearance. The Senate, historically, even on political issues, has had executive session. I'm not sure what the House's capability is of doing that, but let's just have this conversation, make sure they all know about it, and can execute what's got to be executed.
Andrew, Mr. Snowden, who's I believe is in Hong Kong, I initially described him as a hero, and I said I believe he was a hero and that he's going to jail. But after watching him today, I'm just starting to feel slimy about his appearance and what he's saying.
Has he said anything that's wrong?
I don't know. He's just starting to sound as if he's a traitor to the U.S. government. Maybe it's just a personal perspective, but that's just the way he's starting to sound to me now.
A whistleblower is someone who tells the truth about something you want to know about. A traitor is someone who tells the truth about something you don't want to hear about. Is that the distinction?
Why did he have to go all the way to China? Don't you think that in the United States today, there could be enough cover and concealment and privacy where any network, he could have come here to you guys and said...
in the United States, he'd have been arrested.
The NSA would have read his emails and known exactly where
but
it
if he
was.
had met with somebody and had the interviews, and they canned the interviews, and they put him somewhere privately
He'd be
unsecluded...
arrested immediately.
You know what? But then have the process carry itself out, and there would be people out there to defend him. Why does he go to...
volunteering him to be arrested?
Why does he have to go to Hong Kong and do this and not be able to hide within the United States?
When the conversation shifts to Edward Snowden and whether he was right to do it or his actions, then we're getting, I think, dangerously off topic, as opposed to focusing on the program itself. And I'm curious if your mind has changed at all since the revelation first came out about the program itself, the value of the program, the fact that it was secret. Are we still...
But Andrew, but does anybody at this table really believe that the U.S. government was not engaging in these activities?
No,
Every government does. Are we that naive to believe? I know you need a warrant and so on, but are we that naive to believe that the only time they did this is when they had a warrant?
There's gambling in Casablanca.
The thing that surprises me is they didn't let Yahoo and Google and the other guys keep the information, and Verizon and everybody. They have it and say, you know, your policy is to keep it for how long? And if the company's policy is to keep it for 6 months, say, for security reasons, you're going to have to keep it for a year. And they keep it. Then the warrant has to go to them to get it. Why does the U.S. gather all this stuff and keep it? That's the thing that sort of concerns me, because once they have it, who knows what they're going to do with it? That's my concern.
So with what we know about the program right now, are we comfortable with the program as it's been described continuing?
I'm not comfortable with it at this point. There's a lot of unanswered questions. I mean,
if make a decision. Don't criticize.
No, I'm just saying.
Should the program continue or should it cease?
From what I see right now, it needs to be changed drastically.
And if it doesn't change, it should stop.
I would think so. I would think they've got to find a way to protect the country.
At least I got a decision out of them.
Yes,
I give them credit for that.
But they need to...
it needs to be fixed while it's in operation. And they have to stop lying about the existence of these programs within the bounds of what is safe and secure. I don't think national security would have been hurt.
I agree with you.
By telling people this is what we have going on. When the guy says there is no such program in sworn testimony,
his confirmation hearing.
This is why I'm saying certain things can be done behind closed doors, and the Congress, for its oversight capability, could have had the answers, and he could have said publicly, we said X, but
they did.
Privately, well, there's got to be a record of what that is. But Richard, do you think It should be continued then if it can't be changed? It's the same
As
question
I
you asked
just
me?
said,
But you didn't say that part of it.
I did. You weren't listening.
I listened to everything you
what
say,
I
Richard.
said was yes, but the changes have to be made while it's continued.
But if
Should
it can't
continue
be
and it will
changed,
continue.
Should
Should it-
continue and will continue.
Yes.
Thank you very much. See how easy that was? It was a 5-second. We're going to take a break. Up next, Chris Christie's job approval ratings are through the roof, but Garden Staters don't really agree with his take on a lot of issues. So why is the Jersey Boy so popular? That is next. In the meantime, tweet us. Why do you think Chris Christie is so popular? We'll be right back.